Hello, and welcome to the Elevate Entrepreneur, where we decode the success of some of the greatest entrepreneurs that I've met, that I know, that I trust. These individuals have not only built their business up, but they've also impacted lives for the better. Here you will learn not only how to grow your business, but also inspire you to want to be just a little bit better. I'm your host, Raylan Davis. My entire intention is to remove obstacles and excuses as to why people can't realize they deserve more. With that being said, let's jump into this week's episode. Stay motivated, stay elevated.
We are back, and I have an amazing guest today, Ms. Jasmin, who is a phenomenal social media manager and strategist and expert and all the fun words. And in this podcast, I'm going to be asking her all the questions that I know as an online coach, online entrepreneur, you're dying to ask, which is, what the fuck is social media management? So, first of all, thank you, Jasmin, for coming on the podcast. I'm glad you're here.
No, thank you for having me. Thank you for having me on your platform.
Well, also, I'm just excited, too, because I was looking at your Instagram, and we've been following each other for a while. How did we meet? Did we meet on Clubhouse? Or how did we end up meeting?
I honestly cannot remember. I feel like I've met like a bunch of people on Clubhouse, and they just kind of follow me on Instagram. And so now I'm like, I know a bunch of people on Instagram, but I cannot remember how I met them. But yeah. I came across your page, and luckily, I'm glad that I really found it, because I did want to get into this. But I was watching one of your podcasts last night, how you were saying, I think it was the one with... I just forgot her name, but it was another Hispanic guest you had. And I remember she was talking about how she was saying that sometimes you like to give advice. And I remember you gave me some really, really good advice. And I think I just wanted to highlight that out, because even as social media managers, we can think that our content is amazing, but you gave me a really good tip that I actually started using, which was to like repurpose some of my YouTube videos into like shorts for Instagram. Which, like I said, it's like something that as a social media manager you should know, but for some reason, like, it just didn't click until you said something about it. But
well, I'm glad you took advantage of it and actually like did it. Like, one of the worst things in the world is giving somebody some advice and then they don't actually
and they don't take it. Yeah, I hate that.
And I think one of the things, and I appreciate that, but that's like one of the things that I got that from my mentors, because, like, you know, a prime example, I'm talking about him a lot lately, but somebody I have on the podcast recently was Evan Carmichael. Well, our relationship started because he just spent 20 minutes with me helping me out. Now, like, he has no reason to do that. Like, I didn't even ask for it, honestly. Yeah. I just asked for a selfie, and he goes, show me your YouTube channel. I was like, okay. And he started, helping me. So I think what's really important is I think it's important, even, doesn't matter what level you're at. Even if on a scale of 1 to 10, you're at level 3, there's someone on level 1 that could benefit. So I have this horrible habit, but it helps some people, and I'm glad that it helped you. If I learn something, immediately I'm like, I gotta go find someone to tell them how to do this. So I'm glad you found benefit in that. But okay, so let's get into social media. So right now, for as long as I've been doing this, I've struggled finding a good social media manager. So in the past, when I first started, I had a team of people that are overseas, and they actually did a pretty decent job, right? We had someone that did copy. We had someone that helped me with the video editing. And then I had like one more person that kind of helped organize everything in the files. It actually worked relatively well. And I wouldn't say in terms of growth or anything like that, but it's still, at least it was a task off my lap. Now I've been trying to transition into, I want one person that could do it all, that understands kind of the direction we're trying to go, and that can help the page. But it's just, here's the parts that I struggle with a little bit. And maybe you can kind of tell us like what we should be looking for when it comes to social media manager. But I'll be really frank and honest with you. Every single social media manager that I've ever hired, and there's been several, because it's not just me that I hire them for, it's also my clients. Every single one of them either A, was late with everything, was disorganized, or they like overpromised, underdelivered. They charged way too damn much, and the results weren't there. And so I guess what I'm curious for you is like, what should we be like? What makes a good social media manager?
That's such a good question. I've never gotten that question.
So walk us through, how do we find the right social media manager?
Yeah, no, that's such a good question. Honestly, like, I think I've been learning a lot, so I feel like this conversation took up the right place when it needed to. But I think that as social media managers, we're working way too hard. And what I mean by that, like you said, like a lot of people over promise, and it kind of goes back in hand. So to give you a little bit of background, I actually went to school for psychology. So I graduated with my degree in social work and my degree in psychology. So I feel like because I got my degree in psychology, it helps me understand the foundation of how people think and why people do the things they do. And so I always say with marketing, it's almost like you have to have that foundation or else everything else just doesn't make sense. And what I've seen with a lot of social media managers is that they can get the results, or they can do the work, but they're not very good at, like you said, showing results or being organized. And that makes a huge difference. So to answer your question, I think you have to look for someone, like you said, that is organized, but also someone that understands basic psychology, because like, again, if they don't understand that, I don't think, honestly, none of it is going to work. And I did tell you at the beginning that I'm a huge fan of Donnie. So I feel like I do a lot more business coaching than I say I do. Just because, like I said, for social media, you do have to have someone, like you said, that understands the foundation of the business. And if you don't understand the direction where the business is going, if you don't understand where the brand's values, the brand's vision or mission, it's going to be really hard to connect it with the social media. So to answer your question overall, I would look for someone that has like a good foundation in psychology. If I were hiring for someone for me, I would look for someone that's really good at organization. Organization is one of my things that there's nothing in my house that isn't organized, because that just brings me peace. Like that brings me so much sanity, because when things are unorganized, like it just does not go well. I feel like you're in chaos, you're rushing, like you said, you're running, and it doesn't satisfy you or the client. So to kind of go back into social media, I think the number one problem, like I'm seeing right now, like you said, is a lot of people, to link it back to the business overall, a lot of people want to go out there and just make money. They just want to get a package. They want to sign on a client. And I think that's the problem that I'm encountering now, is that now that I'm at a level that I know what I can do, I know the work that I can provide, I know the value that I can do for my customers, I'm not accepting just every single client. I'm accepting clients that are willing to put in the work, that are willing to, have a call with me every month, because like I said, I've worked with a lot of businesses that now I understand it's not just about social media, but it's about how you run your business. So if you don't even have time to get on the phone once a month, if you cannot get on the phone once a month with me and talk about your analytics, talk about your direction of the page, then social media isn't for you. Just because I've had clients like that in the past where they just want me to take over everything, and they're like, you got it, you can handle it, but they're not even willing to get on the phone call. So that's really important, even for yourself, is have requirements of stuff that you want to get done with the social media management. Don't just expect someone else to do it and take it over. Have expectations like, okay, like I want to meet once a month with them. I want them to explain to me what are they doing, on the back end. I want them to explain to me, what does this mean? What do these analytics mean? Because a lot of people don't even know what analytics are. So I think it's just really important just being super, super clear with the customer, and just explaining everything, because you have to realize that not a lot of people know the words just because you know them. So if that makes sense.
And I think too, this will be a little bit too about like your growth as well, because I think you'll notice, like for example, like if you take over, because obviously we're full transparency to the listeners, like I'm going to be talking to you about taking over some of either my clients or my social media. I'm telling you right now, I'm not getting on a call with you. However, I am a creative director. That's his job.
Okay. But at least you have someone. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's a little bit, because like even for me, it's like I think what you'll find is there are some people that you're going to end up working with in the future that are, again, way higher level than me. You will never talk to them. Like I did a deal not too long ago with someone, and I found them a sales trainer, or I found them a salesperson. I trained them, whatever. And super high level person, 7-figure, like probably a 9-figure entrepreneur, honestly. And I never talked to him about it. Just this team. I've never, like him and I talk all the time, but we've never talked about that specific thing. Because again, you got to keep in mind, it's like I'm hiring you so I don't have to think about this, right? The only thing that I'm going to look at, because I do love numbers. So for example, like when you do that analytic report, I'm going to read it and I'm going to know. But I think this is why maybe we should go over this too, and some of the most important analytics for that, because I think you should know, as an entrepreneur or as the CEO of your business, you should know about everything enough to be dangerous, because you have to be able to catch things. Like the reason why, and I'm going to be really honest with you, is that I'm an asshole, and so because of that, I think that's also why I've had a bad experience with social media managers, because I can read the numbers and I'm like, this is not working. And so maybe you should go into that. But for me, like the most important analytics is actually not, it's not actually the normal analytics. For me, it's only conversations. Are people going to my DMs? So that translates into sales for me. Website clicks are nice. And obviously that's important. And so is reach. All the things are important. But what I care about for my business is how many people are asking me questions in the DMs, because that's what translates. For other people, it might be something different. So yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
I was just going to ask you, well, what do you think success would look like? Because I know you said that you want to get messages, but you said that analytics are not there. What do you mean by analytics? Like, what are you not seeing?
Oh, no, I mean, like, I mean that most analytics that people care about, I actually don't care about. It's the only thing that I care about are how many people are DMing us saying, I'm interested in, or they have a question about something. Because, like, for me, the point I'm in now, which is, again, going back to my troubles of finding the right social media manager, is that it's hard for people to understand this. I actually got a DM from somebody the other day, and they said, your engagement's really, really low. It looks like you bought followers, da-da-da. And I said, well, first of all, no, but my engagement's always been shit. Always. Doesn't matter what I've tried, doesn't matter who now, in my opinion, I don't know this to be a fact, right? And to be honest with you, I wish more social media people would admit that we don't know what the fuck is going on with the algorithm. But what happened was I had a team that was DMing people like 30 people every hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever the thing is, all fucking day long, because that's how I got started, was outbound. Yeah. And I think from that point on, like, Instagram like, fuck this account.
That messed up the algorithm.
Yeah. So now at this point, and again, people get confused about this, but believe it or not, I don't make a dime on Instagram like I did in the beginning. Yeah. Now all my money comes from LinkedIn and from doing the podcast.
Wow.
I don't make anything. So the only reason I have Instagram, and the reason why I'm passionate about bringing somebody in that can help build community and get the DMs going, it's literally just to serve. I just want to serve. That's it.
I was going to say, I would argue back. I think that you are making money on Instagram. You just don't see it correlating directly. And what I mean by that is I think like on Instagram, our expectations are so high. We want to make daily sales, but at the same time, you are almost in a way bringing more sales to your company because you're already on Instagram and just bringing brand awareness. And that's a huge thing that I don't think people realize, that awareness is such a huge thing, because I memorized your Instagram by looking at your videos that you post every single day. So because you are consistent in that area, now I know, okay, there's a video coming out that he has coming out today. So I do want to go back to what you said earlier about the analytics. So I think that's a huge thing that really separates a lot of social media managers, because like you said, you're more focused on the community. And that's something that I've just started working with my client with, because she had the same problem at the beginning. When I was working with her, she was like, I have this audience, but they're not converting. I'm getting the website clicks, but they're just not converting. And so the biggest thing with social media that I think a lot of social media managers are missing is just the basic, again, human aspect of community. And we talked a little bit about it. It's basic psychology. I think a lot of people get stuck with the numbers and they're like, I have, 10K followers, and you forget that those are real people. And so I saw a reel one time and it said, just imagine if, your followers were with you in one room. That would be crazy. Like if you had all those followers in one room with you. And so I think with social media, we really just have to pull back a little bit and just remember that these are still real people and these are still real human faces. And again, if you don't understand that psychology aspect of it, it's just going to go way over your head. So it's really just treating them like a basic human being. So for example, for my client, we started doing more community outreach and not inboxing them directly, because like I said, if you inbox them directly too much in an hour, that can block your Instagram, and Instagram will think that you're a spam account, so they're not gonna promote you. But something that we did for her was do more like fun outreach things on her Instagram. Again, I think on Instagram a lot of people are like, here's this information, click the link in bio. Like instead of having them click the link in bio, make them ask you for a link. I think that's the most important thing that people are not doing, is that we have to treat everything like it's high value. And it goes back to like kind of self-confidence and how you carry yourself. Like, again, a lot of people are not pricing their prices like they should because they don't value themselves. A lot of people are living in this mindset that money is limited. And coming from like a Hispanic household where money was limited and, we always had to worry about bills and stuff like that. I grew up with this mindset of, money is limited. And so we have to be careful and we can't spend it too much. And I think that once you really get over some of those like self-limiting beliefs, you can say, okay, this is what I'm willing to accept for my work. And this is what I'm not willing to accept. So I think that's the most important thing is first define what you're willing to accept. What is your lowest, price that you're willing to even work for? But I do want to tie it back into a little bit about what you said earlier because I watched your podcast last night and you were saying how some people don't disagree with the fact that you should give out free advice because then they don't take it seriously. But I kind of disagree with that. I think that it's a great idea because, again, when you're not really focused on the sales and you're more so worried about helping people and it's coming from like a genuine place in your heart, people are going to be able to tell that you're not there for the sales. I mean, you're just being genuine. I've helped so many people just for free. And I want to say like 3 or 4 came back to me for services, but I didn't expect them to come back to me. They just came because they wanted to. So I think just building that community with your audience is so, so important. And that's the number one thing that we're all going to be missing out on, even in the future, because people are just becoming so tech related. Everybody's just becoming obsessed with the numbers. So we really just have to kind of just step back and take a more human approach to it.
Yeah, I love the idea of the more humanistic approach to social media, because you're right, because even, we make content, we feel like we're making it for them, but the question is, when people watch it, do they feel like there's a connection there? Like, do they care, right? Like, you can give information, but like, does your audience feel like you care? And I want to get to the money mindset piece, because I think you're relatively new in your journey, right? Like, how long have you been doing this for?
Yeah, so I've been an entrepreneur for, I want to say almost 2 years in February.
Okay.
But I've been working since a really young age. Like, I've been working since I was 8. So
let's walk through that journey, right? So when did you decide, first of all, you wanted to be an entrepreneur? Like, what led to that? And then also, why social media management and consulting did you land on as all the things you could do?
Such a good question. So I started working when I was 8. And again, I think that, kind of related back to entrepreneurship, I think that entrepreneurship is really, really a mind test. Like, if you don't have it in you, you're just not going to make it, because there really is a lot of discipline that you have to have within yourself. So I think because I started working at such a young age, that just really helped me understand that, work is work and you just got to get it done. But I started working when I was 8 at my dad's restaurant. So my dad actually had a Mexican restaurant in Cincinnati. He always owned restaurants, ever since I can remember growing up. But again, perception is a crazy thing. So a bunch of my family members, or even a bunch of family, would always think, they have a restaurant, they must be really, really nice off. They have money, they're nice or secure. But behind the scenes, like, my mom was in a lot of work because we were in a very, very, Mexican cultural house. So my mom wasn't allowed to work because my dad was he took care of all the bills. So I want to say she wasn't allowed to work until I was like 15. And that's when she started cleaning houses. And so I just learned from that. And also, we were like on food stamps for a little bit just because some of the bills at the restaurant couldn't even get paid on time. So my mom was really scared that, again, we were going to lose the house. And so, again, perception is a crazy thing because behind the scenes, you have no idea what's going on. And I think that just really helped me understand, like, just the hard work and the discipline that you have to get where you are, because my dad could have given up at any time, but he didn't. He just kept going and kept going. And so I think that really helped. But again, growing up in a Hispanic family, social media wasn't a job. Like, this isn't really like a job for us. We don't really do this. We either go to college or, you get a job in the United States. So because a lot of people come over here for a better job. So that's really the only 2 routes that you're supposed to go. And I went to college for psychology and social work, but I learned a lot. I went to the University of Cincinnati. Yeah. But I learned a lot through college just because it opened my eyes. Like, I think that that's a huge disconnection with like Latinos and, just people that are from here, is that we have like such a different just way of growing up and mindset that when you go to college, it's just like a whole different like life. Like, I was just so culturally shocked because there was like a lot of stuff that I was going into college and I still didn't know. And I was like, I'm really behind. Like, but it's just
in terms of like the curriculum wise, you felt like you're behind.
I would say everything. I would say everything, honestly.
Is that a
Like,
cultural thing, or is that just like sometimes school districts like?
I would say it's both. I would say it's both, just because, well, this is probably important, but just to give you a little bit of background, I went to like an all white school. So being like the only Hispanic, it was really overwhelming sometimes, because I always ask my parents, I'm like, out of all schools, like, why did you choose like the one where we're just not represented? And I think that that made a huge like impact in my life, because I was always the one that was left out, just because I didn't really like relate with any of the students at the school. A bunch of students were either like really Christian and I was Catholic, my family was raised up Catholic, or half of them, not to be mean, but they were rednecks, and they were really, really like publicly racist. Like, I talked about it before, but I remember my senior year of high school, the seniors were allowed to ride on the parking spots. And one of the students wrote white power, and they didn't do anything about it. They got like another report from the administration that one of the students,
Not so Ohio.
yeah, Ohio's terrible. But
We got listen. I can't even talk shit. We got spots in Michigan that are like that. So
I can't say Ohio was all bad, but just Little Miami, I know the district was just not good. And again, I think just coming from that environment where I didn't see myself represented, I had to go to college. I did a lot of things that weren't normal. Like, I started like you asked, how did I get into social media? I started my social media my last year of college because I was working a corporate job. So I would go to school from 6 in the morning to 12 p.m. Then I would go to my corporate job from 1:30 to 10. So I wouldn't get home probably like till 11 or 12. And then I would do that all over again. And so my corporate job was a huge reason that I could really, go to school and do what I did. And then all of a sudden, my last year of senior year, they said, we're changing the shift. You got to work morning or you're being let go. And so I had to, decide, do I want to find another job or do I just want to do something for myself? And the reason I really took a risk on myself was because I had already seen my parents, through the entrepreneurship life so many times. So I was like, if they can do it, there's no reason I can't do it. And again, my boyfriend was an entrepreneur. He became an entrepreneur a year before me. So I learned so much stuff through him. And again, I think it really, really, like for Latinas, like I would encourage any Latina just to do it, because I think that we're just so scared of not doing the normal thing, of not doing what, your parents, expect you to do, because again, they never had those opportunities. Like, I know my dad pushed me to college so much because he never got that opportunity and he really wishes he could. But, this is my journey, and you just kind of have to make them understand, like, I get it, but this is, the direction that it's going to go better for all of us, not just me, because I always say everything that I'm doing now, I'm not just doing it for me, but I'm doing it for my family, because I do want to, just keep the business in the family, because that's how I grew up. That's how I was, raised, for all business was.
When you told them, like, how did your family take it when you told them, like, hey, like, I'm leaving school and I'm going to be a social media manager? Because I'm sure they're like, what the hell is even that?
Yeah. So because my dad had a restaurant, I think that he took it a little bit easier, because I offered to do social media for him. I was like, hey, can you let me do your social media for you? And I honestly don't even know what made me even take on the social media. I think I was just in school and I was like, I tend to get bored a lot when I'm not doing something new. And so I was in college and I was getting pretty comfortable. So I was like, I'm not doing anything new. So for some reason I took over his social media, and he was like, okay. But he didn't really think it was a real job. He was just like, he just thought I was helping him out. And so I was still in college when I was doing social media. So I didn't, the timeline is a little bit confusing, but I quit my corporate job in August of my senior year. And then that whole senior year, I was going to school. So I graduated in April. And then after I graduated, I was still doing my social media job. So I want to say I was doing social media for like about 8 months. And then after I graduated, so I was doing it when I'm still in school.
Well, no, I was going to say, like, I thought you dropped out, but no, you graduated. You ended up quitting the job. You chose the...
Yes. Yeah. So I took a huge risk on myself, and I just started a business for myself. And one of the reasons was because this is such a huge lesson for me, was just, I think that really taught me to learn to take risk in yourself, because I told myself, okay, if this doesn't work out, like, I have that stimulus check to fall on. And if anything happens, I have that money. And so I really took a risk on myself, and it ended up just working out. So that that was like the journey of how I became a social media manager. And then after I graduated, I told them, I'm not going back to school. I'm just going to do social
Did you
media.
know anybody, other social media people? Like, why social media? Because, like, for example, for me, my first thing in entrepreneurship, I was a sales coach. Because my corporate world, that's what I did. I was traveling the country and then I was coaching. I just didn't know I was coaching until I saw other coaches. So what made you go social media versus any other thing?
So I knew a girl from my college that was like doing some kind of like social media work, but I didn't really understand it. I was like, I have no idea how she's getting paid. I just know that she's doing something online. And so she really, really inspired me. And I was like, maybe I could do that one day. But it was just like a thought, you have in your head. And I thought about it at my corporate job. Like, I want to say like 4 years before I even started, but I didn't think that was going to be me. I was like, there's no way I could make money online. That's not a real thing. And so the whole reason why I even started to be a social media manager was because I actually started like a nonprofit organization while I was in college. And the reason I actually started the organization was because I was always going to go to school to be a doctor, but then I was like, this is a little bit too hard. So I was like really trying to decide, okay, what do I want to do? Because I had no idea what I even wanted.
Too hard, or you just weren't into it?
I was not into chemistry or biology. Like, chemistry or biology were just not my thing. Like,
because you don't sound like the type to me that like quits things because they're hard.
I don't. Yeah, I really don't.
It just wasn't for you.
Yeah, it just wasn't for me. Like, the chemistry and biology was killing me, and I was like, this is not my path. So I was just in this like journey of I had no idea what career to pick. So I was always very, very just passionate about helping others because, again, it just all goes back to how you're raised. I was raised in a family where my mom was very humble. She was like, just because we have it today doesn't mean we're going to have it tomorrow. So I was just very, very passionate about helping other people. And so I was like, you know what? Instead of saying that we want to help, let's just start an organization so we can get the community involved and we can actually do something instead of talk about it. So through my organization, I was able to get like a lot of social media experience. I think that's when I told you that I did like, we were doing a lot of volunteering for the community, but then the pandemic happened, so I had to do YouTube. So I started doing YouTube. I started doing like little interviews with like different guests from different organizations, and just kind of getting their journey about their organization. And so I feel like that really helped me learn the basics of social media. And so I just took that, and I was like, you know what? I already have some experience, and we just take that and do social media now. And honestly, you figure it out as you go. Like, I didn't just start and say to myself, oh my God, I'm going to make all this money. Like, I'm a social media manager. Like, I was honestly giving out packages at the beginning for $100. Like, it was very, very bad.
Well, here's that's not bad though, but because people forget this, right? So listen, I say this a lot, and I think it depends on the context, right? But I think if you're a new social media manager, you should take your first few clients, and then I would put in the contract something different. So if I was starting out as a social media manager, I wouldn't charge the $1,000 package because listen, you don't know what the fuck you're doing.
Yeah.
And at the beginning, charge $200 a month or whatever that number is, whatever you feel comfortable with that you don't get because you still got to sell it, right? So, even if it's $100 a month, $200 a month, whatever, work your tail off so you learn, but put in the contract, hey, I'm going to give you this price for 3 months and here's why. Just be super honest, right? Like I am starting my journey and I know a little bit. I think I could still make an impact in your company or for you. But just so you know, in 3 months and 90 days, I'm planning on continuing to get better. And I'm going to, just so you know, your price is going up, right? But at least that gets the ball rolling. And then when you feel comfortable, go, hey, by the way, it's time to do that. But again, I think too many people hear, and listen, I think it's important to have the mindset of your value. But here's the hard, honest truth that's going to get me in trouble. You, when you first start, don't know what the hell you're doing. So your value is not, I don't care how much you feel the value, right? Can you do the job? Because when we first started, for example, our agency, right? Like we started the agency. Look, like I was fortunate that I hired experts in every bucket. So we had the knowledge base. In terms of the system, though, we didn't have it. So I still charged good, but it wasn't comparatively to other agencies. It's like half the price. But I did that because I know we get to figure things out. So I think you got to be a little bit careful.
It is a balance for sure. It is a balance for sure. And because you asked, what made me get into social media, like for anybody that doesn't know what to do, like I would honestly just say, like, if you want to be an entrepreneur, just use what you already have, because that's what I did. I was like, what am I already good at now? And that was social media for me. just because I love doing that. So ask yourself what you're really good at. But to kind of go back when you said that I mean, I agree. Like you do have to build up your portfolio at the beginning. So at the beginning, like now, if I could go back, I would have a limit of 3 clients and that's it. Because I feel like I was just doing it for too long, where I was not giving my value that I should have. And I now looking back, I think that it did make me lose a little bit of brand loyalty with some customers because I already had more value and I just wasn't offering it. So I do agree with you. You should offer, some services like that, but also have, like you said, boundaries, have limits, after so many clients, it's not going to happen again. So
Yeah, and there's also nothing wrong, especially with social media management. Like, there's so much that goes into it, depending on, like, for some clients, I would imagine you have to create everything, like, from scratch.
Mhm.
So I would say, like, again, if you had a limit, like, it's also knowing your limit, kind of like you said, like,
Yeah.
I can manage 3 really, really good clients. And then eventually when you get good enough, you just start, charging a little bit more. What kind of clients are you working with predominantly right now?
So right now I'm working with, all my clients have been service-based entrepreneurs that are either doing some kind of service, consulting, coaching, estheticians. Yeah.
Have you done any work with nonprofit organizations yet?
I had one reach out to me, but no, not really. I mean, except other than my own. So
So with your background, I think I'm just gonna spitball an idea to you here, but you said you were already interviewing like nonprofits about their organizations. Just keep doing that, and then just ask them if they need a social media manager, and then that way you can generate leads that way. Because if that's a passion of yours, is serving, what better way to do it than for an organization like that? Like,
yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah. I never really thought about that before, and that's crazy because somebody reached out to me a couple months ago about social media management for an organization. But no, that is for sure a good idea.
Yeah, because then the nice thing about that for you would be this. Okay, so you still charge your worth. Like, look, they're a nonprofit, but you're not. Okay, just
Mhm.
keep that in mind.
Yeah.
So but I would charge that way. Let's say you have three of those type of clients, right? And you do just social media management for like one platform at the start. But then that's going to give you a lot of room to grow because they're going to have other needs. Like they're not going to have a YouTube probably.
Yeah.
They're not going to have, they're not going to have a Pinterest, whatever the platform, they're not going to have it. And then you get to, under that organization, start to add services underneath your belt and eventually charge more. So then really, because here's the thing with what you do, and especially because I think I saw you had an intern under you as well.
Yeah.
You can scale this way. You can have like 5 nonprofits you work for, but because of how much you do for them, you're charging them $2,000 a pop. And again, that builds over time, but you can make a really successful 7-figure business if you just had like 10 nonprofits.
I can't work for you there. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's like that's my other like little fear because I know we all have fears of entrepreneurs, but I think that now that I'm growing, like one of my little fears that I see coming up is just how am I going to handle everybody while scaling and hiring people. So I think that's the next phase I'm entering. But to kind of go back to, I just really think
I'll tell you the strategy right now. So right now, you're already doing with your intern.
Yeah.
So everything that you do, this is what I want you to do, right? I want you to, with your intern, write everything down you train her on, the process of it. Because I know you have a lot of information in your head,
Mhm.
right? You're going to systematize it and work word for word on how you train your intern. You're going to take that training and now you're going to sell that for very low ticket, but you're going to sell it to other people who want to become social media managers. Now, when they train you, you're going to take the best of the best, and what do you think you're going to do with them?
Train them, speak content.
You're going to hire them.
Yes.
Okay, why? Because they paid you to train them, and they know how you work. So now you bring them into your company, and they can work for you. Now, you can still make them independent contractors, whatever, but at least now they're paying, again, for the information you need them to have in order to do the work for you that you need.
That's really smart. Yeah. Yeah, that's really smart. You see what I mean? Like sometimes like you just have to sit with other people and other people just let you see things from a different perspective. No, but thank you.
Well, that's why you also hire a social media manager like you, right? Like, I don't know. There's stuff about social media I don't fucking know, nor do I care about, right? So it's like, that's why it's kind of important. But also, talk to me about your first client. What was that like? Like, walk me through how it came through, the sales call. Like, what was
Yeah. So my first client was a boutique, And that's when I kind of learned to not work with boutiques. And this is not like, when you do social media, I always say every single client allows you to discover what you like and what you don't like. So to kind of walk you through the process, I was actually reaching out to, so I was doing like Facebook groups, I was networking. I always, went in the groups and networked, and that's how I met a lot of people. So I met this girl in Atlanta, and she let me run her social media for a boutique. So she really wanted sales from social media, and I think that was the number one thing where I fucked up on, where I was like, if we fix your social media, you should be getting sales naturally. But I had no idea what I was doing. I had only seen it work from our organization, but I had no idea what the algorithm was. Like, I had no idea what I was doing. So we started working together, and to kind of walk you through the process, she actually reached out to me. She sent me a message. She was like, I would love to get more information on social media. And we had a call through
Let me back up real quick. So she reached out to you. What do you think led to her reaching out?
I was doing a lot of just content on social media about entrepreneurs. Like at the beginning, I was doing at the beginning, I was just playing around with content. Like I was doing anything and seeing what stuck. And so I remember I did like one reel about how people come to you and then they say that they want all this, but then they're not willing to pay the price. So I was like doing like funny TikToks, funny reels and stuff like that. So she found me out for one of those reels. So she wanted to hire me for social media because she wasn't getting engagement, like you said. So I mean, I got the results for her. The engagement was there. It's just she was disappointed because she just didn't see any sales. So that's where I messed up. And that's where I messed up, is where I didn't have clear communication with her that social media does not guarantee sales. And then also just her budget wasn't there to get those results. So that was a little bit about my first client. I learned a lot.
Were you excited though when you got that, like when she said yes on that sales call?
I was really excited because I was like, I had never made money by myself. Like I just made $100. Like I remember the first time I made $50. I think it was for something small, but I made $50 and I was like, wow, I just made $50 over the phone. But it was,
people don't talk about it enough. That's why I ask just about every guest like about their first client, because like it's a really big deal. Like even it doesn't matter how much it was. It's the fact that it's the fact that you can make money doing what you like doing. Like my first client was an old friend just happened to reach out and was like, hey, my it was a corporate consulting gig, but they're like, hey, we need help. And literally the sales call was literally just, hey, this is what I need. And I said, okay, I'll do it. And then this is the number. I just literally threw out a number. Granted, I've always been the type that like, look, when you first start something new, I just, the way I look at it is this, referrals especially, like I just throw out numbers. Like when I first started, I just throw out numbers. So I was like, for this one, I was like, I have $2,000 a month. And she's like, okay. And I was like, all right, cool. Like that was it. And we've had that client now for going on 3 years, but I'll never, like that client, I'm so thankful for, because I also learned a lot what not to do. I learned a lot about, because I actually, this is funny. So I didn't do the $2,000 thing. Actually, I pitched her on $10,000 a month. I just went crazy. Okay. They obviously said no.
Yeah.
But I think what's important is you got to figure out like, what are you comfortable with? What can you say? I'm often asked like, how much should I charge for this service or my coaching program? My answer is always the same. Whatever you can say out loud without cracking a smile. Like without going, oh shit, like that's the number.
Yeah.
And if they say no, the game isn't like, I think far too often people go, all right, what is my target audience? Who's my target audience? And then what are they willing to pay? I do the opposite. What am I willing to charge and who will pay that number?
Yeah, I just
then I go get those people.
Yeah, I just learned that. And I think that you definitely learn that with experience. But I was watching the Social Proof podcast and I told her, like, I'm a big fan of Donnie. I love her advice. But she said something that really, really just opened up my eyes. And she said that you have to define 3 numbers. You have to define your survival rate. You have to define your comfortability rate. So how much money are you willing to be comfortable for? And then what is your realistic goal of money that you want to make? And so that really put it into perspective, because she was like, rather than you just shooting a number and, trying to aim for whatever you can make your services around your lifestyle. What do you want to afford in your life? And I know it sounds like so cliche and basic, but at the end of the day, we're entrepreneurs and we're not only here for the money, but we're also here to help people. So if we're going to be helping people, why not be helping people that can fund our life, but also we can help them fund theirs as well. So
yeah. So then what do you think is coming up? Like, what's the future of content on IG? Like, before it was a lot of dancing reels and shit, and then it was the Hermosi style thought leadership. And then now I'm seeing these graphics that people are doing where it's not graphics, but like these reels where there's like a ball that's bouncing and then it goes into the next thing. Like, it's like almost like distracting enough that it's like a voiceover of them talking about the thing. So what do you think, we have to look for? What's the next kind of fad that all the marketers are going to jump on?
So I have a really unpopular opinion, but I think that the algorithm is not real. I think that to me, it's not really a real thing, just because I have found that the more I play with my content, the more I realize it doesn't really matter what time you post, it doesn't really matter what time you post. The most important thing that matters is that your message is resonating with your audience. And I've played around with so many different times. I've played around with posting, however many times a day, and I have just found that I just take it back to the psychology. It's all about how strong is your relationship with your community. Because again, those are real people. So they're going to be noticing when you're posting 10 times a day, they're going to be noticing every little thing that you do within your business. So to answer your question, it's just going to be more. So for 2023, one of the main, I would say, like, trends I see coming along is just more realistic and authentic content. Like, I'm pretty sure people have noticed it on TikTok, but the people that are doing the best on TikTok are the people that are getting on there with no makeup, just saying, this is my life, this is what I do, and this is behind the scenes. Because again, with social media, we're almost perfecting everything. Then now the stuff that isn't perfected is almost rare. Like, you barely get to see that anymore. So to answer your question, for 2023, I really see a lot of trends and being more authentic, recording stuff on the go, recording stuff, last minute, making your content not perfect. Just have a story to your content. I see a lot of videos now where they do like stories. I don't know if you've seen those, but for example, like, I just saw a reel where they did two people were collaborating and they were talking to each other back and forth, like having a conversation. And that was really smart. So I just see like a lot of like different tactics, but if you pay attention, it goes back to psychology and just human interaction. Like, you're going to see a lot of that more now. So,
well, I think from the beginning of time, right? Like, storytelling has always been the thing that we communicate best with. So it's one of those things I think we could do a better job, including myself, right? Like, I was just talking to my team about this the other day, is that I'm going to start, like, because we post a lot of content from the podcast, which I want to do because, like, the key, there's so many awesome insights that the guests have that I just want everyone to know about it, right? Like, and so that's, the purpose of that. But I think alternating of that thought leadership, like me in front of the camera, that kind of stuff, but just walking in my car. Like, I was super surprised, and we sometimes forget this, but I had somebody reach out to me recently and said that their favorite piece of content that I posted recently was actually from my stories, and I was talking about my day and how I structured the day. And it was just that I was going to jiu-jitsu, I was focusing on this today, and I was like, that's it. And he was like, this was the best content I've seen. And I was like, what the fuck? Like,
just because people can relate with you.
Yeah. Which also really funny though too is that, like, so for a long time, I don't know, this is weird balance, and I don't think I don't even know where I'm going to go with this, but it's just funny to me how the authenticity piece is there. And yes, that does work, and telling a story works. But I remember somebody kept telling me, like, it doesn't matter how produced it is. Like, the overproduced stuff, it doesn't work. It's not going to work. And then I overproduced the shit out of my podcast with Evan, and I released some of those, and it did really well in terms of shares and saves. Like, and
I think, like,
that's so funny to me, because everyone's telling me no one cares about the production, but also the production was really good.
I think it just depends. Like, it really just depends on platform and the messaging. Like, let's just say your production was really good, but then your messaging was also really, really good. Like, something that you said in that clip resonated with people.
Also, his stuff in there was like fucking, people should pay. So that was, the content itself was good. But also on the flip side too, you have people like Alex Ramosi that he films all of this stuff in his closet.
Yeah, and that's why I'm saying, like, I think that you have to use your niche to your advantage. And like, what I mean by niche is, like, what do people already like recognize you for? Obviously, people recognize me as the social media girl. So use your social media, like use that niche to your advantage. Because another thing with like Instagram and like social medias is that people think that they're just for sales. But again, another thing that I learned recently is that people are not always like looking at your profiles for sales. Sometimes they're looking at you to see when they can hire you as a speaker. I know recently I just got hired as a speaker. My boyfriend got hired as a speaker, and that's a huge thing that we don't even realize, that sometimes like it's not about the sales, but it's more about, like I said, networking, because you just never know where your next check might be coming from. So
Yeah, and I think something we kind of touched on earlier, and again, you're helping me kind of realize is the importance of understanding what the hell you want to do with social media.
yeah,
Like I mentioned before, like I think part of the thing, and this is my mistake especially when I first started out, was I hired a social media manager to help it grow. And then somewhere down the line, I was talking to my creative director, Tim, and I was like, I literally do not care at all anymore about my Instagram. All I care about is I have about like maybe 40 to 50 people that watch my stuff every single day. And I was like, that's all I care about. Like that's it. I don't give a shit about anybody else. And I think once it's interesting how free I became once I had that mindset. Because before I used to get really pissed. I'd post something, like many people, right? You post something and you're like, why the hell is this not going? Then you go look at somebody else's stuff and that shit's popping. You're like, that content is trash. I don't give a shit what nobody said. That is garbage. Why is Instagram pushing this and not mine?
Right.
And then eventually I just stopped caring. And now,
Yeah, but you also have to think about like how long, like I think that's so easy, because we can be so easy to compare ourselves to somebody else on social media, but because I do that all the time, I'm like, my content is the same, like why isn't mine performing better? But we have to keep in mind, how long has that person been doing that for? Like I forget about that all the time, where I'm like, I post content, I'm like, my content should be doing better. Like I have the followers, I have the engagement, but you have to remember, like another person could have been on Instagram for about 30 years and you're on Instagram for 10. Like it just doesn't, you can't really compare your journey. And that's why I always tell every single person, like, don't compare yourself to another person on social media, because you just don't know what's going on behind the scenes through that account or through that person.
yeah. So then where do you go from here, Miss Jasmin? Like what's the vision of what you're going to be building in the next few years?
Yeah, that's a great question. So for
What do you
me,
want is the question.
yeah. So my goals right now are really just to keep growing my business. Obviously, I do want to scale and help more people. But the most important thing for me in this season is just making sure that, especially people of color, especially Latinos, especially Latinas, that they see that you can have a job on social media. They can see that there's other ways for opportunities. And again, just not limiting yourself, because again, that's my main priority, is just helping my community and helping people of color and helping Latinos, because I know that, growing up, we have so many projections on us. We have so many self-limiting beliefs, and people tell us what we can and we can't do. And so that's the most important thing for me this year, just making other, people of color just realize that we can do anything that we put our minds to. So.
Beautifully said.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to leave people with, how they can reach out to you, all that? Obviously, I'm going to put all that stuff in the description, but is there anything in particular you want to tell people about?
I don't think so. I would say, just to kind of go back to what you said, the most important thing for social media is that you guys get clear on your goals. Because I just had someone frustrated, and I'll wrap it up after this, but I had someone come to me frustrated, and I think you said it too, where you buy so many courses or you invest in so many people, and then you're like, and nothing's working, and then you almost get tired and burn out. And I always say that anything anything that you invest your money is a risk. But if you want to stop wasting some of the money that you're wasting, you have to get super, super clear on your goals first. And again, think about what do you even want to use social media for? So get super, super clear on your goals, and then that will help you figure out your social media strategy. So.
Beautiful. And I think too, this is why I ask everybody that I've ever worked with, anybody I ever meet, what do you want? Because if you're not clear on what you want, you can't get there.
You can't get there, right? Like we can only give you the tools, but you have to be really clear on what is it that you want. So.
All right. Well, perfect. That was it. Thank you, Mrs. Jasmin. And thank you all for listening. As always, stay motivated and stay elevated.
Thank you for listening to The Elevated Entrepreneur. If you want to check out more about the guest, look at the description below. And as always, if you're a beginner coach or even someone that's seasoned and you're looking to join a community of like-minded individuals, learn about branding, lead generation, sales, you name it, think about applying to the Elevated Coaches Academy. You can learn more about that in the description below. I look forward to having you in the next episode. We'll talk to you soon. Stay motivated, stay elevated.